If you're thinking about buying the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD for blazing fast storage on the go, hold on for a second, because I'm about to reveal some surprising issues you need to know before spending almost $190. The SanDisk Extreme promises NVMe solid-state speeds hitting up to 1050 megabytes per second read and 1000 megabytes per second write. Sounds like a dream for creatives and tech lovers, right? But here's what surprised me. Not everything about this SSD lives up to that hype, especially when it comes to real-world use and durability. Therefore, if you want to avoid frustrating surprises during your adventures or workflow, you're definitely in the right place. Before we dive deeper, let me ask, do you really need a portable SSD that claims top-tier speed but may fall short when it counts? Stick around because I'll uncover where the SanDisk Extreme shines, where it stumbles, and whether it's truly worth your money. Also, I've got some quirky tech jokes lined up to keep this fun because, hey, what's an SSD review without a few puns? For starters, why did the computer keep warm? It left its windows open. All right, enough dad jokes for now. Let's get into the real deal. The SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD targets photographers, videographers, gamers, and any power user craving fast external storage that's tough enough to go anywhere, from hikes to editing rooms. With an IP65 rating, SanDisk claims this drive can handle dust and water, plus drop protection up to 3 meters, a bit of a step up from previous versions. Plus, a handy carabiner loop lets you clip it securely to your belt or bag. It's kinda like a tiny, techie survivalist buddy. So far, so good on paper, especially considering the 5-year warranty. But here's where things get interesting. Despite its rugged marketing, several users report less than ideal durability after multiple drops or exposure to dust and water. Many expected a tank, but it turns out it's more like a tough kid who's prone to throwing tantrums under pressure. Let me rehook you with this. What happens to your precious data if the rugged part isn't as rugged as you think? Spoiler: your sentimental photos and files might be at risk. Speaking of risks, why don't we ever trust atoms? Because they make up everything. Performance-wise, the SanDisk Extreme claims up to 1050 MBs read and 1000 MBs write speeds thanks to the NVMe SSD technology inside. These numbers are impressive on paper and great for quickly transferring large files like 4K videos or gaming assets. However, there's a catch. Real-world speeds fluctuate depending on your host device, interface, and usage conditions. For instance, if you're connecting through an older USB port or a slower laptop, your speeds may plummet to fractions of what the drive promises. This means that while your fancy new SSD can theoretically perform like a race car, you might be stuck driving a tricycle if your setup isn't ready for it. So, question for you: have you checked if your laptop or device can fully unleash those speeds? During testing, I noticed the device heats up moderately under continuous heavy use, which can throttle performance over time. The aluminum chassis helps significantly with heat dissipation. But if you're editing a full day's worth of 4K footage, expect some thermal throttling that might slow things down. It's not a deal breaker for casual users, but pros pushing the drive hard should be aware. On the bright side, the password protection with 256-bit AES encryption is solid, especially for anyone who deals with sensitive data. Just remember, the software is required and supported on Windows 8, 10, and macOS 10.9 Plus, so make sure you're compatible before getting comfy with that security feature. Now, here's the twist. The product page boasts a 3-meter drop protection, but many users have reported damage or failures after drops even as low as 2 meters. It's like SanDisk upgraded the specs, but didn't quite back it up with a reinforced build, kind of like calling your clumsy cat a parkour pro. Don't get me wrong. The drive's tough compared to average SSDs, but pushing these limits might be asking for trouble. The IP65 water resistance rating also requires some caution. It's not meant for full submersion or heavy rainstorms despite the marketing. Also, dust resistance means limited contact, so beach days with lots of sand might not be your best friend's playground. A key positive here is the SanDisk Memory Zone app, which automatically manages your files and helps free up space. If you're prone to clutter or worry about storage capacity, this is a handy feature that keeps things organized without much hassle. Plus, the carabiner loop might look small, but it's surprisingly practical if you're constantly on the move or trekking outdoors. However, I can't help but joke. If only this SSD came with a tiny parachute for accidental drops, right? Let's circle back to price. At $189.99, the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD positions itself in the premium category, which is reasonable for a 1 TB NVMe external SSD with rugged claims. But considering some competing products offer similar or even better specs at comparable or lower prices, is it really the best bang for your buck? The Amazon rating sits nicely at 4.6 stars, impressive on the surface. But when you dive into individual reviews, you'll see a pattern of users praising speed, but critiquing durability and real-world performance inconsistencies. For instance, issues like connection drops, slower than expected writes, and physical wear after moderate use pop up enough to warrant a cautious approach. Here's a little story. A photographer friend of mine bought this exact SSD for a week-long mountain shoot. Initially thrilled with the blazing speeds and compact size, she clipped it to her backpack using the handy carabiner loop. Unfortunately, on the third day, a slip on rocky terrain caused the SSD to hit a 2-meter drop. Surprisingly, it died shortly after, losing some critical files despite the supposed ruggedness and drop protection. She was devastated but learned that tough marketing specs don't always translate to real life. Moral of the story: always back up your data elsewhere, even with a rugged SSD. And speaking of backup plans, why did the hard drive break up with the floppy disk? Because it found someone with more space. So who is this product really for? If you're someone who prioritizes speed and portability and can accept certain trade-offs in durability, and requires an affordable yet relatively rugged external SSD, the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD is a decent choice. It's great for those needing quick transfer speeds for large media files, moderate protection from environmental hazards, and a solid build backed by a trusted brand. But if you are an extreme adventurer, field reporter, or rough-and-tumble user needing an ultra-tough and ultra-reliable SSD, you might want to peek at higher-end rugged options with better real-world damage tolerance. To wrap things up, don't buy the SanDisk Extreme Portable SSD if you're banking on rock-solid durability and flawless real-world performance every time. However, if your priority is fast, reliable speeds with some splash and drop resistance, coupled with handy features like encryption and automatic file management, this drive can be your trusty tech companion. It's an impressive piece of tech for creatives, travelers, and everyday users who want to speed up their workflow without lugging heavy gear. Now, if you enjoyed this review and found it helpful, you'll want to grab the best deal available. I've dropped the Amazon link in the description below so you can check the current price and availability. Don't forget, investing in the right SSD means backing up your memories, projects, and games with confidence. No one wants a drive failure to turn a flash of brilliance into a digital disaster. Before I sign off, one last laugh to leave you with. Why was the computer cold? Because it left its windows open. Thanks for watching and happy storing.